Welcome to Sales Mavericks and Marketing Rebels, the show where bold business owners, savvy entrepreneurs, and sharp thought leaders push boundaries, challenge conventions, and redefine success in sales and marketing. And now your hosts, Nicholas Luisi and Marco Salinas.
Marco, I realize that your picture looks really cool and hip, and I just look like I want to be a model. So I gotta upgrade that picture, baby. Yeah, it does not fit with that wonderful that intro that you do for us with that blues guitar, and I just picture you back there playing while this is going on.
I'm good with that. I'll take it.
Yeah, you are? I thought so. All right, folks. So go ahead. I didn't mean to step on you, Marco.
No. I just said that's my make-believe imaginary world where I can actually play a guitar. You know what I mean?
Did you ever play?
Noodling is not playing.
No, not you. Well, we do have a musician among us today. But before I get to that, I want to thank the folks at Pina Colada Media. Listen, folks, I just had a cool conversation about somebody looking to start a podcast, and I said, you got to give these guys over at Pina Colada Media a call. They do everything for you. And the world of podcast is just growing, right? And this person's concept was doing a podcast that was like an employee newsletter podcast, especially if you've got people on the road or maintenance employees that are driving around. Now, will they listen to it? I don't know. That's for you to figure out. But I do think that there's multi-tiers of what we could do with the podcast. You want to get easy? Just give the folks at Pina Colada Media a call. Not only do they make you look good, they make you sound good, and they do everything for you. It's the easy button. And as an entrepreneur, you know you got to have somebody doing it for you because it's never going to get done. Because our to-do lists never stop. They always are growing. The number one to-do list that every entrepreneur should be thinking about is, how do I get into the inbox? How do I get my emails delivered? My staff is sending them and nobody's responding, and they're getting in the spam, and everybody's changing all the rules, and it's confusing. Rest assured, put your head in your pillow tonight easily. We've got the master at getting in the inbox, Mr. Scott Hartley. But he's also a musician. So maybe at the end, we'll talk a little bit about his piano playing, and he's singing. And every time I see him, he's singing at some really famous place. And, I just want to talk about that. Maybe that'll be the second show we do with him. But for this one, let's talk about how do we get into the inbox?
Hey, Nick, I'm glad to be here. Appreciate it.
Long time no talk. We used to hang out at Clubhouse, and we were joking in the pregame. Is anybody even in Clubhouse anymore? Does it even exist? And who's there? And I just feel like it's almost like a video game. Like you're just walking through just dead clubhouses and abandoned clubhouses, and everybody's run off to the next greatest thing, and they should have sold it when they sold it, but we all have those as entrepreneurs. Yep. So Scott, what's going on in this crazy world of email delivery?
There is a lot that has actually changed over the course of the past year and a half in the world of email marketing. So some of your listeners, maybe, are already aware that in 2024, Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Yahoo really started changing the rules of the game to getting your emails delivered, where they're going to place them. Are they going to place them anywhere? And the rules that they laid out starting in February of 2024 have really started to get ratcheted even tighter here in 2025. And one thing that many of your listeners may have already seen evidence of in their own inboxes is how many more emails are going into the promotions tab, if you have those enabled, as opposed to the primary inbox. So those are just some of the things that we're starting to see here in 2025.
So if I'm a business owner and I do email marketing occasionally, I should worry about this. But I also should worry about if I got salespeople or customer service people sending emails, and I'm noticing more and more of my stuff is getting into, client work going into spam filters or promotions. Is that Is that just because I don't know what I'm doing, or what does that mean?
No, it's a combination of things. So unfortunately, a lot of people say, well, what's the one thing that I need to do to fix this problem? And usually it's not just the one thing. There's a lot of different moving pieces. So when Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Yahoo are looking at like, where is this email going to land? They're looking at a lot of different data points. So number one, just kind of really quickly, kind of like highlighting some of those key things. Number one, you got to make sure that you have all of your authentication properly and fully configured. Like the technical stuff has to be dialed in. Otherwise, you have no chance of making, getting those emails delivered where they're going to get seen.
But how does one do that?
So there's a lot, usually whatever email marketing platform that you're using, whether that's Keep, ActiveCampaign, High Level, MailChimp, whatever, they've got instructions on how you can properly set up your authentication for use with their platform. So using your domain to send emails. We have a service that we can also check your authentication for you as well.
Okay.
But that's really important, is making sure that that authentication piece is in place. The next piece is what the mailbox providers are really honing in on right now is engagement. How are people engaging with your emails? Are they opening, clicking, and replying? If you've got recipients who are not doing any of those things, you're going to find that your emails aren't going to get seen in places where people will normally look for them.
And so what does that mean if I'm just a not normal, but I'm just a regular business person and I do the occasional email to my clients, like an email newsletter, and nobody really opens it? That means I'm going to get penalized for that. Is that?
It means you're
right?
going to get penalized, yeah. Because the mailbox providers are looking for mostly clicks and replies. So I know everybody right now is still like hyper focused on opens. And we're all proud, like our open rates. It's like, oh, I get 20% of my list that's opening. And if somebody's got 30 or 40%, that they've gotten on an email, they're like, woohoo, I've got 30, 40%. Here's the bad news. That's not a good number. And here's what I tell people, because if you go online and you do a Google search right now and you say, what is the open rate for whatever industry that you're in, you're going to find that the average open rate is probably somewhere between 12 and 25%. What's the key word that I just said in that sentence?
Around,
it's the average open rate.
Yeah.
My question is, do you want your business to be average?
Yeah. And like you said, we used to get excited, right? And it's just a different way of thinking. And I know you got a book on this topic, and so they get obviously work with you, or they could go, we'll give the promo to get the book. But I still think that the average small business person thinks that they're in the clear, right? I just think that they and like the guy that's got an HVAC system and he's just trying to kind of get through the day and make sure that his crews show up, and so. What are like the three things that they could do? Or maybe you were doing that and I stopped you by asking a bunch of stupid questions, and Marco was smart enough just to keep quiet. But what are the 3 to 4 things that they could do to make sure that they aren't an average business?
Yeah. So you've already kind of mentioned a couple of those with the comments and the questions that you've asked, which are great. So number one is, and I get it. So before I jump into those, as small business owners, we're overwhelmed with so many different things on our plate. And now all the mailbox providers have made our lives much more difficult because we depend on email to communicate with our lists. But now we have to jump through a lot more hoops to make sure that our email marketing is effective and that we're getting results from our emails, right? So number one, you mentioned newsletters. In my book, as a matter of fact, on the back cover of my book, one of the bullet points is why you should ditch the email newsletter and what to send instead.
Love that. Okay.
I am totally against the traditional email newsletter as we know it. That's actually working against you.
Okay.
And here's why. One, when you see the traditional email newsletter, it's got a lot of different articles in it, right? It's got a lot of different things that people can do.
Okay.
A confused mind
Never
buys. You're giving people too many options. And usually they're going to be like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, I like that idea. And then they're like, okay, I don't know which one I want to go to. So they do nothing.
Okay.
Or if they select one of those options, guess what? Now they're out of the email. They're reading that blog post. Are they going to come back and click something else in the email? Most likely not. Right. So the email newsletter is working against you. And this goes to another piece of it, and an excuse that I hear from so many small business owners, because you need to be emailing your list at least once a week. If you're just emailing once a month, you're wasting your time doing email marketing in today's environment. But the excuse that I get is like, but Scott, I don't know what I would send every week. I don't have enough stuff that I would send every week. But yet they send a monthly newsletter that has 4 to 5 pieces of content in it. It's like, wait a minute, you could break this up, and now you have a reason to send one thing for 4 different weeks out of the month.
Okay.
Without creating additional work.
And one could argue that you could still send that physical newsletter also, right? It just,
you absolutely should be sending a physical newsletter.
Okay,
I'm talking about the email newsletter. Yeah.
Right. So they could break it up, break up the content. There's some really cool things you can do with AI, right, which is a different conversation.
Yep.
And my guess, are they scanning emails now to see if they're AI written? And if they are, they go into promotions folder or not yet?
No, and I don't think it's going to get that way, because if you've noticed, if you use Google Workspace, they have Gemini built right into it.
Yeah.
And they allow you to use AI to start even one-to-one emails. Right. So I don't think that the mailbox providers are going to heavily penalize the use of AI and determine, are they going to deliver your emails? I think they're going to want you to start leveraging that.
Okay. So mail once a week, get some level of reply. What are the tricks to get some level of reply, right? Because a lot of times we just send static, we are great emails, or here's our staff picture emails, or, hey, I got a promotion. But if you're not, looking for my product or service, it's going to be, no one's going to respond. So what are some ways to drive response?
Great question. So this requires a shift, both for us as the sender, as well as our recipients. So from day number 1, when email was first introduced, even up till today, we get an email on our phone. What do? Well, we open it up, we read it, we consume it, we delete it. It's a consumption. We've been trained to consume emails instead of interacting with emails. The mailbox providers now require the interaction. Google just updated their best practices at the end of last year, saying Google does not track opens. That means that if you get in trouble, if your domain reputation tanks, just getting more people to open your emails is not going to get you out of Google jail. It's going to require interaction with those emails, clicks and replies. So first off, for us as senders, we have to think about, okay, how can we change what we're writing to really entice and encourage and persuade people and create that curiosity, like, oh, I got to go click that link to figure out what they're really talking about. Or I'm including this video. Oh, I've got to go watch that video to find out what Nick or Marco's saying, has a message for me. Or we're asking them, for their opinion. We're asking them to share something with us. And so we elicit that reply. And we have to educate, and it's a very slow process, but we're going to have to slowly educate our recipients. This is what I need you to do with my emails. No longer can you just consume. I need you to interact. And sometimes it's just being as bold as saying, hey, guess what? Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Yahoo are making it difficult for me to communicate with you by email. If you want to continue hearing from me, I need you to reply. I need you to click. And a lot of times that will help to start getting our audience to understand, like, okay, I need to engage with you more frequently.
Hey, Marco, do a lot of your clients do email marketing campaigns? Do they hire you for that?
That's part of it. Absolutely.
Yeah. I know you're a big fan, and it's intriguing to me. Here's where my mind is going, and it's kind of scary. right? Not that it's my mind, but just, the old days when we wanted likes, we would go out and buy likes, right? I'm not saying that any of us ever did it, but people would do that, and they're still doing that, right? These influencers don't have 1 million people following them. They got 30 people in India following them 80 billion times, right? And so is it going to be that there's going to be shops set up that say, hey, send us your emails and we'll respond to them, so that way you stay out of the promotions filter or spam filter? Or is that already happening?
That's already there. So
Okay.
Some of your listeners may be aware of what's known as email warm-up services or email engagement services. And so there are those, services that you can subscribe to that, will regularly send out emails, and they've got a network of automated email systems, and some of them supposedly have humans that will actually engage with your emails. So they'll open them, they'll move them over to the inbox. If they end up in another folder, they'll click on links and they'll reply. The challenge with that is that Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Yahoo have caught on to those services.
Sure.
And they're starting to penalize users for use of those services. So they're saying, hey, don't try to game the system. Like, we want real likes. We want real engagement with the emails, not this automated jazz.
Yeah. What's the old book? I think it's Marketers Ruin Everything. I think Seth Godin wrote it, right? We
Right.
ruin everything, right? Marketers ruin everything by doing
Yep.
that. All right. And so the warm-up services used to be a best practice. Now it's not a best practice. Is that correct?
It's generally not. You want to try to avoid those as much as possible. Now, if you're setting up a new domain, you do need to warm that up, but you want it warmed up with a real list of people. Now, here's the thing. It doesn't have to be rocket science. Most of us have anywhere from 3 to 5 email addresses that we personally use in our family members. I personally have 4 Gmail addresses. I've got 2 business addresses. I've got 2 business addresses for my old business. I've got a ton of email addresses. Like, I could literally add all 10 of my emails, get 3 family members who also have 10 email addresses. I've got 30 people. And for the course of 2 weeks, I could send daily emails to all of those email addresses. Me and my family, we reply, we click on those. And in a short period of time, we've actually warmed up our domain for proper sending, but it's all legit because it's real people. We're not trying to game the system in that way.
Okay. All right. And then in your book, I'm sure you walk them through that, or your service. I'm sure you work with clients that just don't have the time to do it or the inkling. And so you help them with that. So that's, I think, either 1 or 2 best practices. What are some of the other things that people should be doing?
Yeah. So, really a lot that it boils down to, again, like I mentioned, is the engagement. Okay. And one piece that I see that we haven't quite figured out as business owners a lot of times, because it requires time, is we need to segment our list. So, Nick and Marco, you guys are familiar with this being in the marketing space, but any type of marketing that you do, don't we always get better results when we do targeted marketing as opposed to the spray and pray method?
Of course.
Yeah, sure.
It's the same with email. A lot of times we get people to opt into our list, we add them to our list, but we don't identify where they came in from. Like, did they come in with this from this checklist that's on this topic, or this lead magnet, or this video that was on this topic? Instead, we just we got a new contact. And so now we blast out the same message to all 500 or 5,000 of our people. But yet we've got people that are dog owners, we've got people that are cat owners, and they don't want to hear about the other pet, but we're still sending the same information to everybody. And then we wonder why people are unsubscribing, reporting emails as spam, or not opening and clicking. We've got to segment our list and send out information that people are truly interested in.
But that's hard work, Scott.
Actually, it's not.
Okay, good. All right, go on.
Actually, it's not. If you're using any type of email marketing platform, like every single one that I know of, it's as simple as when you're building your automation or you hire somebody to do it, that they apply a tag or set a custom field that whenever Nick, you fill out this form, it says Nick came in through this particular funnel. It was on this topic. And now That tag's already applied. You did the work once. And now when you're sending out emails, you can say, hey, show me everybody that's interested in this particular topic. And now you can compose an email that goes to that group of people. And here's a little trick. 90% of your email can be the same, but your opening hook is all you really need to change to target it towards that particular segment. So if you've got 3 different segments, you can write one email and just change the first couple of paragraphs to make it tied to that particular audience. And it doesn't require but like 5 extra minutes of time.
Okay. So now, do you have best practices on, let's say, here's like my pet peeve. I might do it myself with my Calendly, but I book an appointment with somebody. My inbox gets blown up with about 82,468 reminders and a text, every 5 minutes. And it's like, oh my gosh, am I your first date? It's like, so are there best practices that you have for like, what's the best practice for, a confirmation sequence, if you will, a new email to my list sequence? What do you recommend for those things?
Yeah, great question. So, for your appointment reminders and everything, obviously, we have to remind people to show up because life happens. They get busy. They may have accepted the calendar invite, but you don't want to overdo it. Like as soon as somebody, schedules an appointment with you, one email's enough.
Okay.
And then usually, like 24 hours before, and then an hour before, and then like 15 minutes before, that's usually my cadence on appointment reminders.
Okay.
Because as it gets closer to the time, we want to make sure. Now, text messaging, I'm not a huge fan of text messaging because that's as personal as you can get, because people have their phone. And I think you can really violate that personal space pretty quickly. So I personally don't use text messaging. Marketers have really ruined that, in my opinion, anyway. But when somebody gets added to your list, number one, deliver whatever it is that they opted in for. Like that's the very first thing. Yep. Then what you want to make sure that you're doing is that you're setting expectations either in that email or the very next email. Here's how often I'm going to communicate with you. And here's what you're going to get from my communications. And here's how it's going to benefit you.
Okay.
Then you need to abide by that.
Okay.
That's really, really important.
Okay. Is there one automation system versus another that you prefer?
The platform really doesn't matter. And I know a lot of people, think like, and they blame, oh, my emails aren't getting open. Oh, they're not getting delivered. And it's all because of the email service provider that I'm using. Here's the breakdown of where the responsibility lies. 80% of your emails getting delivered, getting open, and getting conversions, 80% of the responsibility lies with you as the sender. Okay. You have the most control.
Okay.
10% of all of that falls on your recipient. Because remember, Microsoft, Google, Apple, they are looking for engagement. And the old adage, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So we can't make somebody open and click and reply to our emails, but we can entice them. So 10% falls upon our recipient. 5% is on your email service provider. So Keep, ActiveCampaign, High Level, MailChimp, whatever, because they have IP addresses that they have to manage that does affect, do your emails get delivered and where? And then the remaining 5% are the mailbox providers, Google, Apple, Microsoft, and Yahoo. What are they doing? Right now, Microsoft is being crazy stupid that neither you nor I have any control over. And the interesting part about this is that even Microsoft's own emails are landing in Microsoft junk folders.
Oh, there's that. Now, so Marco, you got anything? I got another question, but I want to make sure that if you got something, you could jump in.
I've got a couple of things, but I'd like for you to go ahead and save me just a slight little spot there towards the end.
All right. So I hear what you're saying on, okay, it's my responsibility, and we could throw your book up so people can kind of get your bonuses and learn how to do that. We'll put that up in the show notes and everything at some point. But there it is.
Flash it now
on the screen. I got to write emails that are engaging so people are responding. They have to put that. Is there like, what is it used to be? My guess is Outlook historically was more enterprise, Fortune 1000 B2B, right? But now they're going after the small business market. A lot of people are using Google Suites. What is the breakdown of email systems, if you will, or email inboxes?
So the numbers kind of shift from time to time, but when I last checked, so Apple Mail has just under 50% of the market. So people use Apple Mail to check their email. Now, people could have a Gmail address, or they could have, whatever email address that it is, but they use Apple Mail to actually check their emails. Because why? So many of us have iPhones.
Yeah,
right?
so it's sitting on the phone. So they're going through this.
Yeah, they're going through the default mail app on there. So 49%, 49.29%, if I remember correctly, of recipients are using Apple Mail to check their emails. Then behind that, at about 29%, just under 30%, people are using Google Workspace to check their email, or Gmail. So that's about 70% of the market. And then I forget what Microsoft is, but they're the next one in line. So they're roughly about 17 to 20 some odd percent that people are using Outlook. But so many businesses are shifting over to like the Google Workspace because it's frankly a lot easier to use than Microsoft. But those are the big three. But Apple Mail is what most people are using to check emails now.
Okay. But that's more what I would call, and keep me honest, a B2C, right? Like I got a bunch of different emails that I use to sign up for different marketing funnels, if you will, or marketing products, and I'm checking those all through my Apple Mail on my phone. But what about like for businesses? Is it still B2B? Outlook and G Suite?
It's still going to be, about the same on those, because even if, people have a business account, and they have an iPhone, most people configure that in the Apple Mail. Okay. So, as a business owner, it could be an Office 365 email address that's hosted, with Office 365, but they're checking that email in their Apple Mail, whether they're using a computer or a mobile device.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any stats that you have of what percentage of sales comes from your email list for most companies? And then there's another question to that is, there used to be old adages that we would say for every 1,000 people on your email list, it could be $1,000 in revenue or something like that. Is there still rules of thumb in that way?
So email marketing is still the number one revenue generator for businesses. So for every dollar,
because I want people to hear that.
Yeah. So email is still the number one revenue generator for businesses. Even though we have all the shiny objects with social media and all of that type of stuff, if you think about it, we do social media advertising, which can be effective.
Yeah.
But where are you driving people? You're generally driving them to an opt-in page or a lead form. And where are they going once they fill that out? To your email list. How do you then communicate with them? You're communicating with them by email. You're not communicating them by direct message on Facebook, 500 people or 1,000 people. And so email marketing, the numbers still show that for every dollar that you spend on email marketing, that you can average anywhere from $36 to $42 for every dollar that you spend.
That's fascinating. It used to be in my old days when I had a lot more hair and was a lot younger, I had a direct mail shop, and it used to be for every dollar you spent on direct mail, you got $46 back, and I don't think that number is still the same, right?
Probably not, but I tell you what, direct mail has a huge opportunity right now, because I went to my post office box yesterday, not a single thing in it. If somebody would have sent me something, I would have at least looked at it.
Yeah, I agree with that, but it's a different conversation for a different day. But I used to always, because we used to mail a lot, so I was at the post office like daily. I always watch people grab all their stuff out of their PO boxes, and I would just watch them throw half of it away. And my guess is there's probably a different interaction between the personal mail that comes to your house right? You probably spend a little bit more time with it than the PO box.
Yeah.
And nowadays, now the whole world is going back to the office, but when people weren't in the offices, you didn't know really where to mail to as a
Right.
B2B advertiser, right?
Yeah.
And it's a little creepy if you're mailing business things to people's homes unsolicited, I think. I'm sure there's marketers out there like Travis Lee and Sean Buck and the Profit 911 guys, that would tell me differently, but it'd be interesting to see. Justin Miller, thank you. I forgot his name for a second. But okay. Well, if you're a business owner and you're not doing some form of email marketing, you're leaving money on the table, right? Because we just learned for every dollar you spent, you get 36 to 48 back, roughly, right? That's real money. That's a real dollar amount. It's your number one marketing channel. So how often can you hit it? Scott is saying hit it 5 times a day. Is that what you said to me earlier?
No.
Okay. So that's only ClickFunnels, right?
That's only ClickFunnels. Yeah.
That hits me.
Now, I will say it depends on your audience. There's some people that I've got about 5 people that I'm on their list that they email every single day. And I read their email every single day.
Sure, and I'm fine with that, but that's you're soliciting that. That's like you get the Ben Settle emails of the world and people like that. But okay, so if you're a business owner, butcher, baker, candlestick maker, home improvement guy, home services guy. I just had my air ducts cleaned before we finished this. I was nervous they were going to take a little bit too long, right? How often you should be once a week you're mailing to your list with something that they interact with, that they engage with, that they respond to. It could be click this link to get on our drawing for a free service, right? Click this link to win an Amazon gift card. Something that you need them to do to engage with you.
Yeah, and provide value. Don't be one of those people that's like always saying, buy my stuff, buy my stuff.
Yeah.
If you've got that home, the duct cleaning service, how can you educate people?
Sure.
That, between services, how can you educate them to, maybe do some maintenance on their ducts and kind of help keep them clean between? And, how do you help with allergy, things in your house and all that type of stuff that relates to your service where you can provide extra value. And then periodically you can, say, hey, we've got this special going on. Why don't you go click here to check it out? Something along those lines.
But let me ask you a question. So if I'm sending just general knowledge and education and feel good emails of, hey, the world is sunshine and roses, and here's how to, make your house more allergen free, which I love. How do I get them to engage?
You got to make it interesting. So don't just share facts. So the email that I sent out to my list this morning was talking about fear, how we all face fear as entrepreneurs. And I could have, loaded it up with a bunch of statistics and, proof elements and all that type of stuff that would just bore the heck out of all of us. Instead, I opened up that email with a story that happened on Friday, an experience that I had. One of my students that's in our Gibson County CEO program, how he was fearful about asking for a loan to get his individual business started because of personal hangups that he had. And he thought asking for $650 was just way too much. And he was afraid that he may not be able to sell his products and be able to pay that loan back. That story engages people and it's a real life scenario. And then I was able to shift that into like, hey, what he's experiencing, we all in business have experienced. We all have fear of some sort that creeps up. So if we can tie this into a personal, relatable story that gets people to engage, now we're not just dumping information on them. We're actually inviting them into a conversation and into a story that now can be intriguing to them.
All right. Marco,
good stuff.
I got more, but go ahead, buddy.
I think there was just one thing I wanted to really address or ask you, Scott, was that if you're using something, let's say like a Constant Contact, I have a client that uses Constant Contact. They don't allow you to do a plain text email. Everything has to be the HTML. And I know that a lot of the little algorithms or sensors or what have you kind of look for some of those things. Is this HTML is what kind of tends to lean it towards that promotions tab. on Gmail. It dumps it into there pretty often. Is there anything you can do in a case like that? And that's my first part of it. Hold that. And then second question is, what if we wanted to switch that constant contact over to something like a high level? Is it better just to stay where we are instead of trying to start all over again with a whole entire new system?
Two great questions. So number one, most every email platform, it's all HTML emails. You could have some that say they've got a text editor, but it's really an HTML email, but it just doesn't allow you to put images there. There's a lot of things that, determine whether an email would happen to go to promotions. And, predominantly what they're looking at is, the IP addresses that emails are sent from a platform. They're identified like, hey, Constant Contact owns and uses these. These are going to be bulk emails that are coming out. These aren't one-to-one emails. That's going to heavily determine the design of the emails. Do you have a lot of images? Do you have a lot of links? Are you using words that are known to be promo type of words? That means it's a promotional email. Where should it land? It's going to land in the promo tab. Again, that it's just an organizational system. Now, I want to throw in here real quick. A lot of people get hung up on the promo tab. Only about 20% of users on Gmail actually have promo tabs enabled. And most people's lists are only made up of anywhere from about 30 to 50% of Gmail users. So a very small portion of your list actually have the promo tabs enabled. So it's not the be all end all that everybody's concerned about.
Okay.
But you want to look at the content, right? What's your content? That's going to be, and the way to get out of the promo tab, as I mentioned earlier, is with engagement, getting people to click and reply to those emails and move the emails over to the primary inbox. That's the way to get out of the promo tab. Your second part of the question, if you're moving email marketing platforms, number one, the only reason you really should be moving is if you need the functionality that another platform offers that you don't currently have. It has very little to do with sending your emails, but you cannot, and I cannot emphasize this enough because I see too many people making this mistake. You simply cannot stop emailing from Constant Contact and start emailing from High Level, MailChimp, or some other platform. You will get into a world of hurt that will cost you thousands of dollars and months of time when you make a sudden shift. The mailbox providers do not like sudden spikes or changes. Everything has to be done methodically and incrementally to avoid negative consequences.
Makes a lot of sense.
Thank
you.
We're from the direct response world, right? So we know that we don't like HTML driven emails and that type of thing. And we've been trained by, this is part of this is, people that, enjoy Dan Kennedy and the direct response marketers and that. Mm-hmm. But I would say that we're the minority and God bless, right? Because we got good response rates on everything that we do because of that. But, it's, what would you, maybe, what percentage of promotional emails, if you will, are HTML versus text?
The majority. I don't have specific statistics, but people are in love. People are in love with making their emails look beautiful. We've got to have these
Instagram
images.
is a visual platform. TikTok is a visual platform.
Yeah, we've got to have
a visual society. So yeah.
Yeah. And I just had a conversation with a client this morning that kind of gave me some pushback because, several of his emails were loaded up with emojis and, he had several images and others. And it's like, dude, you need to get to a solid foundation and get your email health score up to 800 or better, which is the safe zone, before we start playing around. I said, once you've got a solid foundation, now we can start to have fun with email and test and see what works with your audience. But, the thing with having beautiful emails is that screams, this is a promo email.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you just think about it. I mean, even with direct mail, how many times does ugly direct mail outperform beautiful postcards and all of that stuff?
I don't know enough to know anymore because I'm not in that space, but I think my guess is you're a lot like Sesicles, right? I think if you're pushing a boulder uphill and the only way to do it with a client is say, let's A/B test it. right?
Yep.
Let's send this and let's send this and let's see what the response is and
Yep.
prove me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not in that space that much anymore, so I don't know. So I don't want to just pontificate. That never stops other podcast hosts. And it seems like everybody on Facebook is just a marketing genius. And everybody in my inbox could get me 500 qualified appointments for free, you know. I mean, I remember there was a professor. This is a rant, but it'll be a fun rant, and then we'll play ourselves out here. There was a professor that had his economics or marketing students over the course of a year quantify in real dollars how many online, especially social media, revenue claims. What was the total of it all, right? You know, I made this client. I'm the $200 billion man. I'm the, you know, and it was if you lumped them all together, they would have been the largest GDP known to mankind, right? It was just, you know, we're so, I don't know. There's so much false platitudes and false information flowing around, especially in the marketing space, that I can see why business owners are just, I'm just tired, right? I'm just weary. Everybody is promising me and everything, and they can't get it to where it needs to. But you could promise getting in people's inbox, and they got to do, the first thing they got to do is they got to get your book, which is rightfully named Hit the Inbox. And so they go on and get there. There's just some special goodies and all that good stuff that they could get if they go to this URL, which is hittheinboxbook.com. Once again, that's hittheinboxbook.com. It's easier to type out than say, is my guess. But go get that. There's a bunch of bonuses. I'm sure you're a great marketer. You're going to give everybody everything. If they want to meet, if they want to hire you, how do they find you, Scott?
Yeah, so with the hittheinboxbook.com, you have the opportunity that if you want to, there's a free revenue roadmap call that you can schedule with me if you got specific questions about your email marketing. So when you grab a copy of the book, there's also a very valuable resource that a lot of people have opted in for is my open rate maximizer checklist. Some very specific strategies that I don't cover in the book, but help you get more engagement from your emails. And so right through that website, hittheinboxbook.com is the great way to get a hold of me.
All right. Full transparency. Scott was able to help me, get look at some things that I was doing wrong on Inbox. So I'm a user, right? And he's a great guy. A great marketer, likes to share, is a polished writer. He's a musician. He sings in a choir or two. You know, what else? What else do you do, Scott?
I love to travel. I don't have a lot of hobbies, but I do love to travel. And then, of course,
he has a cat.
Piano, and then I have sang at Carnegie Hall. So
yeah, that was what, a year ago or 2 years ago? You were at Carnegie Hall.
That was 2022, I believe.
Oh,
so
how cool was that?
Yeah.
Did you have a solo?
No, you don't want me to sing it solo. But,
please.
It was a blast, though. It was a lot of fun, and would love to go back again. So
all right. And where is the next travel? Where are you going to?
Right now, the next travel that I have booked is going to be Dallas, Texas, a place that I've never been. That's going to be in October. So
that's a fun place.
Yeah.
We're going to Hamburg, and we're going to Hamburg, Germany, and we're going to go check out Berlin.
Nice.
And that's in a couple months. But I'm in the Midwest, and it's finally sunny, but I do think I need to go to a beach. And my wife must be thinking the same thing, because she sent me an email that I interacted with a bunch of deals of going to some all-inclusive beaches just to get out of Dodge for a little bit. So
we've had a horrible winter here over the past few months, and at least today, I don't know what it's like up in your area, but down here in Southwest Indiana, it's finally about 60 today. So it's a nice change.
Yeah, it's 50 plus. I was able to go outside on the patio before this call and get some sunshine, right? Get some vitamin D into my skin. I just felt it just absorbing it all. It's 53. It's nice. It was about 30 this morning when I went to the health club at 6. So, we're in the Midwest. I know we say that we're hardy people and we're used to it, but I'd live where Marco lives in a second, right? Just to get out of this this cold and this bitterness. Folks, if you want a podcast, you want to have some fun, you want to talk to your clients, you want to use, like we talked about today, as a employee development, employee retention podcast, a business development, a business retention podcast, I just want to learn stuff. I got some cool friends like Marco and I do, and I want to invite them on and learn how to get in the inbox and, how to write good copy and how to use ChatGPT, whatever you want to do, however you want to do it, you got to have a podcast. Listen, we talk about it all the time. Joe Rogan, what does he make? Like $20 billion from his podcast, right? Not Your Daddy's podcast. She sold that for $8 million. I mean, I don't even think that people listen to anything anymore except for the podcast, right? It's my go-to place of, when I'm walking or when I'm on the treadmill, just listen to a podcast. Maybe I do an audiobook, and I like a podcast because, you're getting somebody's knowledge and people love to share. The old days, we used to go to Clubhouse, as it was Scott and I started talking about, and I don't think anybody's there anymore. And if you are there, send me a note so I could come visit you and see what's going on. But it would scare me to hear what's going on in Clubhouse land at the moment. Marco, anything before you play us out?
No, just a quick final parting word that Scott's been very helpful. The one sheet that he mentioned, I thought that was absolute gold. As a busy business owner, those little 1 or 2 sheet PDFs are super helpful. Gone are the days of me sitting there and flipping through a 100-page report, like we used to. So that thing was just straightforward, to the point. Also, Scott has a great community on Facebook as well. Make sure you get involved there, because he's got the office hours, as he calls it, where you can jump in and ask him some questions live and on the spot. So this guy's just constantly giving away a ton of free information. Imagine what he offers when you actually open up your wallet just a little bit, So can't thank you enough for all your help on that, Scott, because this thing, it's evolving, it's moving, it's changing a lot, as with everything else. And so we appreciate you being so on top of it, because, man, my focus is here, there, and everywhere. I don't have all the time to just be like, oh, I gotta be the email guy. No, I would leave that to Scott. So thank you for that, Scott. That'll be my parting words. Absolutely. All right, fellas, I'm gonna go ahead and cue us out. But thanks again, Scott, for your time today. Nick, thanks as always, buddy.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
We'll see you guys. Have a good one.
Thanks for tuning in to Sales Mavericks and Marketing Rebels. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Keep pushing the limits in your business. And remember, the Mavericks and Rebels are always ahead of the game. Catch you next time.